Hey everyone, welcome to Real Talk with Ellison, and I am Ellison. Listen, if you are watching on Facebook, please hit the like button. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell so you know when Real Talk with Ellison goes live. And like our videos too, because that helps us to get a little bit further up on the ratings, because on Real Talk with Ellison, we deal with real issues that impact the community, and y'all know how we do it. We deal with feeling, dealing, and healing. And with that being said, we about to get this show started. Hey everyone, welcome to Real Talk with Ellison, and I am Ellison. Listen here. We have been talking about the blueprint of a father. And man, what I have to say is that it has been a phenomenal few weeks discussing the importance of a father in not only a daughter's, but a man's life as well. Right? So today's show, we are continuing to talk about the blueprint of a father, but we are going to talk about how the absent or the inconsistent father hinders the family dynamic. So let me educate you guys a little bit, right? Family dynamic. What does that actually mean? Family dynamics are patterns of interactions. It's patterns of interactions, it's different roles, relationships between family members, as well as factors that influence them. So if the father is missing, then there's an absentee in the role, and then there's an absent in the relationship. There's an absent in how should I act? How should I respond? There's a lot of different things if the father is absent or inconsistent, right? So before I introduce my guest on today, I do want to introduce my beautiful co-host, Jaquita Garrett. And Jaquita's muted.
Hello.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey.
Hey, so before we introduce our guest, I did want us to talk a little bit about the statistics, because when I was reading on researching, right, I was seeing like there's a big, huge impact of fathers on the relationships and the society of how a man learns how to be a man, right? So I've seen that nearly 25 million children live without their biological father.
That's a lot.
25 million, right? So
Yep.
that was huge. Woo! There was 85% of youth that are in prison come from fatherless homes.
Wow. That is a lot.
71% of high school dropouts come because fathers are not in the home.
Right.
And lastly, 90% of all homeless and runaway children are because of fatherless homes. That is an astronomical amount of children that are impacted by inconsistent or fathers not in the home.
Right. That's a lot.
That is a whole lot.
You wouldn't even think it's that much because it's what is it again? 25 million.
25 million children are without their biological father.
That's a lot.
That is a whole lot. That is a whole lot.
And it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, including the 85% of the youth that are going to prison are because their fathers are missing as well.
Right.
Right? So, with that being said, we have a wonderful, wonderful guest who has a phenomenal story, and I'm not going to say anything about it because it's his story to tell.
That's it.
But let me go ahead and welcome Jarvis Fountaine.
How y'all doing?
We
All right, how
good.
you
Hey,
doing?
Jarvis.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all for having me on.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
coming.
much for coming on. Yes.
Mhm.
You know what? I love it, right? Because I'm all over here like, right? And you're like, hey, how y'all doing? So I love it, but
Wait,
it's
wait.
great because it'll help me come down a little bit, maybe.
No,
Maybe.
keep the energy.
Yeah, we like
Yes,
energy.
sir.
Yes.
So, Jarvis, listen, tell us a little bit about yourself. What you got going on lately?
Well, doing a lot of working. I work for an agency. I'm located in Alexandria, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
I work for an agency called Class. I'm the resource coordinator. I do a lot of outreach. I also work as a part of a syringe service program, doing a lot of harm reduction work. I also work for Rapides Parish Drug Court as a substance abuse counselor.
Mm,
And me and my business partner, Mr. Dominique Teasley, who's known well in this area and throughout the state,
mm-hmm.
we have a business called Project Rebuild. And
Mm-hmm.
pretty much what we do is try to, you know, help people deal with transitioning from either out of prison, from the streets, or coming from treatment facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm just staying busy. I also have a beautiful and supportive wife. I have 5 children. Very
Okay.
active in my community, trying to give back. Because it was a point in time whenever I was a taker. So I was just
Mm,
taking. So today, like part of my purpose, my mission is just to give back. Um, Try to reduce or eliminate stigma because it's
that's
very
good.
like around this area or pretty much anywhere, like stigma is causing a lot of harm. So what we do, especially with the agency class, it's called Class Healthy Living for All. Um, we deal with people who, and we treat them like human beings. No matter if you got substance abuse diagnosis, no matter if you got mental health, whatever's going on with you, we want to treat you as human beings, connected to certain resources, whatever they may look like.
Mm-hmm.
And we guide them through the process. A lot of times people tell you like these are the resources, this what you need to do. Our thing is really like how can we like connect with you and hold your
Right.
hand through the process. We go walk
That's
with you
good.
through the process instead of saying, hey, this is how you get to a destination. No, we finna walk with you through the
Right.
process, you know?
That's good. I'm glad that you said that because like you said, there's so many people that say, okay, here's the resources, here you go, here's this, and then they drop you. But if I don't know how to do it, then I'm gonna repeat behaviors, right? I'm gonna
Yes,
repeat the negative behavior. So what you're saying is through class, right? That you guys and again, let us know when I say class, I'm not talking about school.
right, right.
It's
So
the organization.
it's an organization located in Alexandria, Louisiana. It's called Central Louisiana Aid Support Services. Um, and right now we're just dealing with healthy living for all. So we got different programs up
Mm-hmm.
in class. We have a Ryan White program for people who diagnosed with HIV. So they have services. They are able to get a
Mm,
food pantry, rental assistance, utility assistance. They got case
right.
management. A whole bunch of resources to assist people in that area, connect them to providers in healthcare, medicine, whatever may need. We also got programs for like prevention. We have a program called Balance because I like what you said earlier on. You was like we about feeling.
Feeling, dealing, and healing.
So with Balance, it's a program about emotions, about feelings, about thoughts. A lot of those that are unwanted. So we trying to figure out like how can we process the things that we feeling internally? Because a lot of
Right.
times they telling us exactly what our values are. You
Yeah.
know, and it's the process towards healing. Um, so that's a good program to get people comfortable with
Yeah.
feeling what's really going on with them, and we try to like manage or navigate through that process. And then another program that we have at class is called Fresh Works. It's a syringe service program, and around here and throughout the United States, sometimes when they hear syringe services, people kind of get like, oh, what is that about? Are you condoning? Are you doing this? No, we're not condoning. But at the same time, how can we make sure our people are if people gonna do whatever they want to do.
Right.
So how can we make sure they have access to Narcan because of the overdose crisis? How can we make
Yeah.
sure they have sterile and clean syringes?
Clean needles because
Yeah,
they transfer, right? If they
right,
use it.
right. We want to make sure that they doing everything in a healthy way. So when that time does present itself, like when they ready to get some type of assistance, support, or help, go to treatment, we'll be able to be the ones that can connect them to those services.
Okay.
We also have a service for free and confidential testing where you can come in Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and you can get tested for HIV, Hep C, syphilis, whatever. So we can make sure what our statuses are. And then if
Right.
something does come back positive, we also can treat you or we can refer you out to our local community partners. We
Mm-hmm.
have also on the first Thursday and the third Thursday of every month, a clinic to where you can come in and get tested for other like bloodborne pathogens and STDs, stuff like that. So
Right.
we just want to make sure that
Man.
no money, everything's free and confidential. You
Right.
don't have to have insurance, no money. We just, a resource hub located in the heart of where all these um where
Low
poverty is, low
income,
income,
poverty,
homeless,
different things
homeless,
like that.
unhoused, the unhoused community. We located right there in the heart of it, and we just making sure we meet them where they at and treat them like human beings.
Well, thank you for all you do. That is so, so important because there's not enough people in our community, right? There's resources in some of the other communities, right? Some of the other different ethnic communities, maybe our light-skinned cousins and stuff, but it's not a lot in our community. So,
Yes,
thank you for all you do.
yes,
So, let's just talk a little bit about the blueprint of a father. You heard the statistics,
yes,
right? Nearly 25 million children live without their biological fathers. Yes, so they saluting you. Everybody's appreciating you because it
Man
means a
love,
lot,
man love.
especially for a black man to be
Mhm.
back in a community doing positive things, right? So yes, thank you so much again for that. Um, the other one was 85% of youths in prison come from fatherless homes, 71% of high school dropouts, and then 90% of homeless and runaway children, right? You heard me talk about the family dynamic. Can you tell us a little bit about your family dynamic and how that might have impacted you as a young man?
um well, I can let me first start off by saying, like, with those statistics that you was talking about, I can see it. I see it right here in my community.
Mm,
um I see it right here in the judicial system. I see it in the schools because we do a lot of mentoring, and it's a lot of things that I can relate to, or either through either my own personal experience or through what I've seen from like friends or people in my community. My family dynamic, I grew up in a loving home. Um, I did have my mother and father. My mother and father were just very young when they had me. So a lot of my memories come from like being raised by my grandparents.
mm-hmm.
Um, so I want to make sure I be clear. Like my mother and father, they were present. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that they were young when they had me. And my
Yeah.
memories, as I'm looking back on it, I just recall my grandparents. I remember being with aunties and uncles, and I remember my mother and father also.
Right.
Um,
But you know what, Jarvis? With that being said,
yes,
thank God for the community that stepped in, right?
yes,
Because everybody don't have that. So
yes,
thank God for your parents. Your parents were young, right?
yes,
And unfortunately, it happens.
yes,
But you had the community to step in, and I feel like sometimes that's what's missing now. Where's the
yes.
community to step in to help when the mothers and the fathers can't be there? Where are the real grandparents? Because
Right.
sometimes I feel like the grandparents are still trying to be the teenagers.
Yes.
So you know what? So kudos to everybody that played a role in that.
Yes, yes, and I had a big family support network, like a system. Like I was just beyond blessed. But also, as I look back, I can see kind of where that detachment came from. Like because I was young. So my
Mhm.
perspective on things was a little bit different. Now that I'm older,
Mm.
I can look back and I can say, "Oh, my mother and father did the best that they can with what they had." I can see like why my grandparents stepped up and why everybody had hands on me and made sure that I was safe. But at that moment, like when I was going through it, it was like
Rebellion.
yeah, rebellion. I felt like I had like abandonment issues,
Mm.
very detached emotionally because I never had, either I didn't have the skills or I didn't have the space. I'm still figuring it out to communicate exactly what was going on inside because I come from a couple households where, and that's what goes on in our community. Like what goes on in this house stays in this house.
Stays in this house.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As a young male or a boy, you're not supposed to show your emotions. Um, that type of stuff. So it kind of,
Yeah.
I was taught at an early age, like keep it together. You know what I'm saying? When you walk out this house, make sure you look presentable. But on the inside, at certain times, I felt like I wasn't a part of maybe. I
Mhm.
felt less than, and I don't think that's what was going on. It's just this
Right.
how I was internalizing things.
Right.
So it made me
Yeah.
behave and act a certain way, and those things that I was looking for in my core, eventually I started to get those in an unhealthy way. You see?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Can
and
we
I'm able
talk
to
about that
recognize
for
that
a
today.
minute? Let's
Yes.
talk about that for a minute because, well, let me address this comment first. He said, "Come on, sir. We know how to detach emotionally, but we are not really emotionally intelligent on how to properly move between emotions."
Yes.
That goes right with what I said. Can we talk about that a minute?
Right.
Because most young ladies are taught to we got Holly Hobby ovens. I don't even know if they got that anymore. But we got Holly Hobby ovens, we playing house. We're molded to deal with emotions, get married, do all of this stuff. But the boys are told, most men are saying, shut up, boys don't cry. Y'all are taught to fix things to break things to fix things, right? So you become a fixer, and nobody's telling me, well, if I'm angry, what do I do with these emotions? Where
Yes.
can I channel these emotions,
Yes.
right? What do you
Yes.
think about that? Because I heard you say unhealthy.
Yeah. So for me, a lot of times I just didn't know how to process my emotions. So if I was angry or if I was mad, or if I was frustrated, it went to rage or anger.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Mm-hmm.
was, if I felt hurt or sad, I felt depression. See,
Mm-hmm.
today being older, being more mature mentally and emotionally, I'm able to identify those emotions where they really coming from. It really was just I was mad, I was happy. Like today, I can say, "Oh no, I felt betrayed, I felt hurt, I felt
Mm-hmm.
like this." Like I'm able to identify the emotions in my neighborhood. Well, in my community, we don't talk about mental health. You know, we don't talk
That's good.
about addiction. We don't talk about depression. We don't talk about certain diagnoses.
Yeah.
So some things that was going on, and we was taught. I was taught from an early age, just keep moving through it instead of like processing it, getting a
That's
moment to
good.
yourself, being able to communicate. This is exactly how I feel, so we can figure out certain solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Um, and that's me looking back. I see that I needed a certain space where I could have somebody that I was comfortable talking with. And maybe they'll be able to look through it and find out what was going on with me. Because at
Right.
that age, I just was incapable
So
of
what
being.
age? What
Right.
age are we talking about here? And what you got, Quita?
Nothing. I was just paying attention with what he said. I like some points that he had spoke on just now about how I feel like you said the girls receive tools to help them become women or to mold into young women or women, but men are taught to be shunned or muffled.
Mm-hmm.
I do notice that. I have noticed that, and like Jarvis said, they didn't know how to process. And I notice most men don't know how to process, and I believe that's part of the reason why it's hard for men to say or think or believe that therapy is okay.
Yeah.
I think it takes a man much longer to say, okay, I'll go to therapy. And now we're starting to have a community where men are more open to going to therapy. But at one
Mm-hmm.
point, it was shunned upon. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
commend you, Jarvis, for being able to finally find a way, the gateway to be able to process those feelings.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
On your question, like I can probably look back on my life from early age, 6, 7 years old, having certain thoughts and feelings and not knowing, and just keeping them bottled up. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the older I got, those bottled up emotions or those thoughts or feelings, that's whenever you started seeing the behavior. That's when you
Mm-hmm.
start seeing the not caring about the grades. That's when you start seeing like a punishment wasn't good and it didn't matter. You could punish me forever. I'm still gonna
Right.
do what I want to do. That's when
Mm-hmm.
you start seeing the substance abuse or the substance misuse
Right.
that progressed. That's when you started seeing like certain behaviors that started creating like consequences for me, like in
Mm-hmm.
from junior high, high school.
Right.
Yes,
You had said something about feeling rejection, you were feeling that, but you wasn't really able to perhaps articulate it. So with the feeling of like rejection and abandonment, you said you started looking for it negative
yes,
because sometimes people, if I feel like I don't belong, even a negative community can make me feel like I belong. Even though I know it might not be right, I could gravitate more to that because at least somebody's seeing me,
yes, yes, and
right?
right,
Go ahead.
definitely. So I believe, and I've learned this through the process of not only being trained and able to facilitate balance. I was also participating in balance before I was able to get trained. So I was able to look at certain things, and that's when we started identifying things called values, which is, they individualize. You figure out what your values are. They things you care about the most. But I
Right.
started realizing through people pointed out to me that I had some core values outside of like saying logically family, wife, kids, job. I had some things on the internal core, like being a part of, being understood, wanting attention, unconditional love, those core things that I needed in my core.
Right.
So if I'm not getting those in a healthy way at home, if my parents or whoever it is
Yeah.
that's in my family dynamics, my household don't know how to give that to me in a healthy way, or I feel like I'm not getting in a healthy way, guess where I can get all of those things? In the streets.
In
I
the
Yep.
can get all of
streets.
those things in the streets.
That's
I can get
right.
all those things from drugs. I can get all those things from negative behavior.
So we think anyway.
Yeah.
So at what age do you feel like you started with the being in the streets? Like, kind of take us through that a little bit.
In the streets from a young age, from as long as I can remember, because well, the area that I'm in, family members, my uncles, my cousins, I was always somewhere with somebody. So I
Right.
was introduced to certain things at a very young age. I always was comfortable wherever I went. Um, because of my family, because of their history, it's like not only being introduced to it, I was welcomed to it. It was like, oh, there's Reggie's son, or there's Jeffrey nephew, or there's Sean nephew, or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case may be. So it wasn't no resistance in that area for people
Right.
accepting me into the streets.
You
So
felt popular.
I felt
You felt desired. You felt wanted. It was cool.
a point in.
Known,
This is where
accepted.
I belonged, accepted. It was no judgment because I
Mm,
realized the judgment, the part that used to mess me up when I got older, I felt like everybody judged me. But it really was I judged
yeah.
myself so bad. I just
Right.
automatically thought everybody else judged me. So
Yeah.
like with the people who was doing the same thing as I wasn't getting no
You
judgment because they
wasn't
was
getting judged.
yeah.
Yeah. I want to read this comment real quickly and see what your thoughts are on it. It says, I felt rejected because my real father was not present, so I was an extremely angry child towards anything dealing with him. Do you feel a lot of men deal with rejection through anger? Yeah, no.
Yeah, I believe so. They and I can relate to that. Um I never felt rejected, but I felt that abandonment or that detachment, that space between me and my father.
Mhm.
So for me, I was always angry, but I didn't know how to communicate that. So, and I also had some strong beliefs, and people made like I had people who was very disciplined, so I didn't want to be disrespectful either.
Right.
But my anger would come across as telling him something. I would just move. I leave. I go around. I'll move around.
And
Um,
how did your anger impact you in society though, right? Because now I'm in this negative environment. If I want to be angry, I can be angry.
yeah, it got me in a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
Um, it had me doing things that just to prove to myself and others that I was worthy or I was bigger and better than. I don't know if people can see, but I'm light skinned. A lot of my family, they darker skin complexion people. So I already felt like, hey, as a
Did you
light,
say complexion
yeah,
people?
yeah, yeah. Like the people who light skin like myself, like
Yes.
Right.
I always felt like I had a point to prove. Look, I know I may be light skinned, but guess what? I ain't no pushover either. So guess what?
Gotcha.
I was in more fights. I was always resistant, and I was always bucking authority or anybody around me. So it was different things going on.
Gotcha.
I'm laughing because Eric's over here saying team what is he saying? Say so
What?
team light skin, bruh.
Team light
Right?
Right,
Because
skin.
he's light skin. So
right,
they almost kept him in Mexico because they thought he was Mexican.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was in Dubai. They thought he was Arabian. I
Oh,
mean, it's like so much. He wasn't black enough for the black community. He wasn't
yeah,
white
What
enough for the
enough
white
for
right,
the white
community.
community?
right.
Where do I
Mhm.
fit in?
Right.
Right?
Every
Right.
time we go out of the country, my wife always tell me, like, you look like you belong over here. Stay close. You know, straight up. So it's all good. I get it, man. Team light skin all day long. We look, and then
Somebody said with good hair.
yeah, yeah, that's my brother right there. So I know yeah, we're
Oh,
good.
that's
So
hilarious.
it make it
Yes.
worse. So like the pretty boy stuff. So I always felt like I had something to prove.
Mhm.
That is so true. Oh my goodness. And that is such an impact, right? So fast forward, we talked about, you getting with the wherever I can fit in to feel a part. I wasn't judged. Nobody judged me for being angry or whatever the case may be. So do you feel like the disconnect, because your parents were young, right? So we don't want to throw dad and say he just was non-existent or whatever, but he was light.
Right.
He got
I'm
jokes
going
and
with
stuff.
Eric.
We're gonna cut him off.
He said light skinned cats were
One
either
or the
pretty
other.
boys or throw it off.
One or the other. All combination of both. Them the bad ones too. So one or the
That's
other.
hard.
Right. So, so the whole how I was feeling, the disconnect, how do you feel that impacted you as a young man and even, you growing into adulthood? How did that disconnect with your dad either help or hinder you? What do you think?
Right.
I think it I think it hindered me only because when I was like graduating well at the end of high school, um, and then graduating high school barely, but I graduated, going into the military, some decisions I made. I think because of that disconnect, I wasn't comfortable asking him for feedback. I
Mhm.
don't think
That's
I
good.
know I would have had his support. I know he would have gave me the best advice, but I wasn't able to even ask for it. And if he did tell me something, I was not able to receive it.
Mm.
Got you. And look,
That's
that's you just being honest. You being
mhm.
transparent about the
Yeah,
Mhm.
situation. It's not a
Mhm.
bad thing at all.
yeah,
Like you said, you acknowledge your dad, you respect your dad,
yeah,
but it's bringing us back to how did you process things? And
yeah.
in that moment, it couldn't be processed
No,
between you and your father.
yeah.
Over time, I'm sure it had gotten
Oh
better,
yeah,
but at that
yeah.
time, couldn't
Definitely gotten better. But looking
process.
back, I can see that's why um I was very resistant to a lot of things, when it came to our relationship, not only with my father, but like my grandfather, because like I said, I was raised by my grandparents, and they all had some good feedback. They had some good suggestions. They had experienced life however they experienced it and knew that it was a better way for me to do things and didn't want me to be. They wanted me to be in a better position than they ever was. I know that with all my heart, but because of me being rebellious and not being able to process certain things, um, I was left with my own vices. With I'm doing things on my own, figuring it out.
Listen,
Yeah.
me, myself, and I are the worst people to talk to when we have a wrong concept of life.
Yes. Yes.
Right, we're just sitting there spinning up in our own mind, and we're not having any rational thoughts or anything like that. So
Prison
when
in your
you
own
know
mind.
with yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like me, myself, and I. We all think we got it going on. and because of your disconnect, you couldn't receive from them, right? So I think that is so powerful, because how many young men are out there saying, you don't understand, you don't know how I feel, you don't this and you don't that, because we're not giving the fathers or even the grandfathers the chance to let them know, yeah, I do understand,
Yes.
right? I too walk the school of hard knock lives. But
Yes.
because we don't understand where you came from, we just know that it's impacting us this way.
Yes.
Right.
So we can't receive, right?
Yeah.
And it's bringing us back to, we're looking at it how you just said, I agree 100%, but we're looking at it on how, like you said, they're saying, you don't understand. But in that moment and in time, dad probably didn't know how to help you understand. So it was kind of like, you know what, hard head make a soft bottom. You're going to figure it out. It's kind of like a tough love thing. And I think at the same time, they weren't realizing that they were hurting us more than helping us. So I
That's
think
true.
that, again, back to process, I guess I'm going to go back to it. They couldn't process it. I'm sure things were different with your dad and your grandpa, because I mean, think about it. The more the generations twinkle down,
Yeah.
we start to better understand as a community, as a whole. We try to make sure we don't have our kids making the mistakes we made, or we try to
Mhm.
let them see us as a better role model.
Mhm.
So as the generations happen, I think the fight is that we're trying to make sure our kids see things in a different light than what we saw, in a better
Mhm.
light. Because I always tell myself I want my son to have more than what I ever had.
Yeah.
And those things are happening, but it all happens over time. And I know 9 times out of 10, I know my mother always wanted the best for me. I'm sure my dad did as well. So that's
Mhm.
what I try to encourage my son to know. I want what's best for you. I
Yeah.
Right.
often hear my mom say when I was younger, I'm not sure how to tell you to be successful, but all I know is I need you to be better than me, be better
Yeah.
than what you see visually. And that
Yeah.
kind of helped give me a way to process, but she didn't even know how to show me or tell me how to go about situations. But I just
Yeah.
had a small idea of what she said, and it just stuck in my brain to
Yeah.
help me process it. So I think what happens, though, as the generations go, we try to break the generational curse.
Yeah. And
So,
and I
Quita, go
I
ahead,
could say
Jarvis.
something. So and I totally agree. And but the way I see things today is, how can I break a generational curse, right? Whenever I haven't done no healing, and then my father hasn't done any healing, and his father hasn't, so it'll come to, like, if I don't do no healing right now where I'm at today, I'll be doing the same thing as my father. I'm telling you what to do
Absolutely.
instead of showing you what to do,
That's it.
or being an example of what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's how I think, that's how we break generational curses,
That's
is
it.
individually we start doing some healing of our
Yeah.
own and
Yep.
create spaces. Like, if we don't create a safe space, like, how can
Mm.
I feel comfortable
That's
enough
good.
to say, hey man, I'm going through something. I don't know
Right.
what it is I'm going through,
That's it.
but
But
I'm
it's
going through
something.
something.
Yes.
Tell
Yes.
it, Jarvis.
Let's go
Keep
to this
preaching.
comment. Terrence says, he says, I understand you, bro, went through the same thing and being raised by my grandparents as well. Good to see you using a platform to get the message across to the youth and the elderly. That is really good. Thank you, Terrence, for that.
My boy.
So I wanted to piggyback on some things. I know, Quita, you have brought up your mom, but you know, um, in with talking about fathers, I want to know, right? Because so my father was there, but my father was very abusive. So that's that part. A father is the first love of a daughter, right? The father is what teaches the boy, what to do, how to provide. Sometimes you have the father that can teach you how to deal with emotions. 9.5 out of 10, you don't, because they were also raised, get over it, suck it up, buttercup, and keep it moving. I heard you say about the generational curses, right? What
Yep.
what was the impact on you as a father in the beginning, and what did you do differently to change
Right.
that generational curse?
Well, in the beginning,
Yes, in the beginning, like you told us you had 5 kids,
yeah.
right? We all know the first one is the
Okay.
test baby. We
uh,
all know that.
it was a struggle in the beginning.
uh,
Um,
uh-huh.
and a lot of stuff is just learned behavior. A lot of stuff is just doing the best that I could with what I had.
Mhm.
Um, and from the time that my first son was born, um, up until my last born, it's been a lot of time in between. My first son is 21 years old, and my
Okay.
baby girl is 6 years old. So I got a
Okay.
lot of time in between. And with my son, I really was back and forth in the streets, back and forth from facilities like incarcerated treatment, back and forth.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I really was just when I was at home, it was like my idea of being a father was I'm just present. Like
Mm.
I'm just in the
There you
house.
go. That's
Um,
what Ellison said.
and it's great. Like as I look back, it was like, well, I always been here, I always been around. But what type of example am I leading for my
Ooh,
son?
that's good.
What
That's
type of
good.
Amazing.
what type of conversations was I having with my son? And it was negative conversations. It was bad behaviors. So he only knew one thing. As I got older,
Mhm.
and I had other kids. I'm in recovery, so I have 6 years clean from any mood altering chemicals. Okay,
Congratulations. Yep.
Yay! Awesome.
yeah, and
Congratulations on
Yep.
that.
thank
Beautiful.
thank you. But that's whenever I was like, I never went to treatment voluntarily either. So I was always taken because of some consequence. But this last time that I went, um, some things happened differently for me during this process. I guess because I was more desperate, I became more willing to do things that people recommended of me. I started looking at myself. Um, One
Mhm.
thing that I can recall about it was like a light bulb moment for me. It was one of my counselors at drug court. I had to do a one-on with him. He over the African American male group in drug court. Rest in peace to Mr. Mike Boudreaux. So, and I had been with my wife at the time, my girlfriend, for 18 years.
Wow.
Okay. And we had decided we was gonna get married. I was still a little nervous. And I went into his office and I'm like, man, I'm thinking about I had 6 months clean at the time. I said, I'm thinking about getting married. I think, it's been 18 years, this and that. He's
So
like,
wait, let me pause you a minute.
all right,
Wait,
yeah, I know,
hold
I know
on.
this will create a conversation right here. Go ahead.
So you was
18
with her
years.
for 18 years before you decided to marry her.
Yes.
Okay, so wait, hold on. What's her name?
Stacy LaCour.
Stacy.
He held you
Hanging in there,
down.
girl. Kudos to you,
Right,
Stacy.
He
right.
held you
Listen,
down.
you was holding him down, girlfriend.
Yes. Yes, and a lot of that, right? A lot of them 18 years was a reason too, because of my father and because of my mother's
Mhm.
relationship. I never wanted to commit. My mother and father loved them to
That's a whole
death,
nother show.
loved them to death, but they had been married twice and divorced twice from each other.
The
You know
example.
what I'm saying?
The
So,
example made you
so,
not want to do it.
so, and I've seen divorce and separation throughout my family, right? Um,
Mhm.
so I never wanted to make those commitments. When I
Mhm.
was about 6 months clean, I was like, man, I need to give my girl an opportunity. I need to give myself an opportunity to grow up and mature. And
Yes.
when I talked to Mr. Mike Boudreaux, my daughter at the time wasn't even a year yet. And one thing he said to me that changed everything about how I thought about commitment and being a better father. He said, um, "Are you ready to be the type of man that you would want your daughter to be with?" It was this.
Woo! Go
That's it. I
It was
love
ahead. That's
it was
it.
it was really that simple for me, and that what made my decision. She may not know that, but that's what made my decision.
She gonna know
it.
now.
She know now.
Right? Like you need to become the type of man that you would want your daughter to be with.
That's right.
And as I thought about that, it was like,
That's
nah, let's
powerful.
let's change. Let's make some commitments. Let's change some behavior. Let's be honest with yourself and be honest with others. And if it and the relationship was so valuable to me, you know, like it was worth me doing those things.
Mhm.
Awesome.
That is
It's amazing.
powerful.
That is
That
very,
is a
very
great
powerful.
story,
Hmm.
and that is the truth. And a lot of men, they don't look at it that way. But, I am my daughter's first love. So do I want her to see like this is what love looks like in and out of the life, in and out of the streets, in and out, of different, facilities, drug use, all of this stuff. Is that the kind of guy that I am willing for my daughter to bring home and me be like, yeah, you can have her hand.
Right. I got a little sister, and we best friends, and I'm pretty sure that all of her the people she chose was a reflection of me. You
Mm.
see? So,
Mhm.
like I understand, like my daughters are paying close attention, they gonna be attracted to whatever's close to them.
Mhm.
So am I being that example, of
That's
change?
right.
And
That's
it's a
right.
process now. It's a process. I didn't just become this holy man overnight or change man. Like it was a process. I had to put some work in. I had to do some healing. I had to find some people that I could talk to. I had to connect to some resources. I had to,
Brotherhood, a community of
yes,
brothers.
yes, I had to connect with somebody, and they kind of guided me. I allowed them to guide me because he was an example of like what I wanted to be. Had a family, was married, was responsible, was going to work. So I was like, well, guess what? All the other experience I got, all the other training I got was from the streets, learned
Yeah,
behavior. So guess what? I need to unlearn those things and relearn some new things. So I need to
that's right.
connect to people who living right.
Yeah,
And that was the first step for me.
right. So let me ask you this because
Congratulations
you
for
said
that.
your oldest son, right? Go ahead, Queen. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying congratulations to that though. That's what I was
Yes,
saying. It's a big
yes.
step. He's
Because
doing amazing.
if you don't want to, you're not going to.
Right.
Right? So you said it's because I wanted to change.
Mhm.
I had to reframe my whole mindset,
Yes.
Mhm.
from the street mentality to what I want my kids to
Mhm.
have. And I
As a
heard
big
you
step.
say from the oldest to the baby girl, there was a process in between there, right?
Yes.
Do you go back, right? And this is something I want to ask, and if there's still that the men still on the line, if y'all feel comfortable with asking this, I want to know y'all input. Do you go back and apologize to the kids? Do you go back and say, "Hey, I didn't know better"? Do you go back and say, "I might have showed you this, but now here's this cuz I got a better head on my"? Do you go back?
Mhm.
Yes.
What's the
I,
process?
I had to go back. I mean, a lot of times, like I just say certain things because that's how I was taught. So, like, we looking for solutions. They always say you look for solutions, but guess what? If you don't know what the problem is, how you gonna look for that solution?
Come on,
So I
bruh.
had to go back and identify what the problem was, and I did. My son looked at it a certain way. My oldest son, he had experienced me going in and out of prison, in and out of treatment facilities. He experienced me running the streets. So I had to go back literally and have these conversations, not just to explain what I did or didn't know.
That's
Amen.
I had to let him
amazing.
tell me how he felt about it.
Yep.
Yes.
And respect what he said in the end though.
That's
You know,
right.
like when you bring
Yes.
things to your children, it's about when you're ready to have that conversation and process it, it's like you have to respect their feelings at the same time. Because I
Yes.
Yes.
can recall, me being in a situation with my dad and not understanding his addiction and what he was going through, and he was in and out of prison, broken promises, saying he's
Mm.
gonna do, saying he's gonna do this, saying he's gonna do that. And I finally was able to have a conversation with my father. So a lot of people would say, why do you seem like when you're around your dad, you're on edge, you don't want to be bothered? It's because of the examples I seen as a man that
Mhm.
he did not make the best choices, and I
Mhm.
could not understand why. I understand some of it now, but therefore that was the situation. So when he finally sat down, he wanted to have a conversation with me. And he said, when you're in addiction, it's hard to be able to have a role of being a dad and lead by example because you're ashamed of a lot of things you've done. So we were finally able to have that conversation. And he said, what I want to say to you is if I don't care about myself at that time, I did not. In that moment, how could I care about you?
That's
And my
good.
words to him was, thank you. And I thought I started to see him in a different light because I finally had a conversation with him where he wasn't lying to me.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
told him in that very moment, that's the biggest appreciation that I can have towards him because he was finally being honest and not feeling like he had to lie to me about anything.
That's
So
good.
at that moment, that's when I learned to have a newfound respect for my dad because he finally stopped lying.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. Dominique has said that he said that's a must in the healing process, making amends where you can, and we have to restore that harmony. That's really really good. And
Yeah.
then Eric says apologies do not change the past, but they are easier to receive when the change behavior is consistent.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's Jarvis what you did, because
Yep.
it's one thing to say I'm sorry, right? And I'm going to pull on something you said, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
When there's inconsistency, when Jarvis, you were saying in and out, of drug use facilities, prison, different things like that, that's what our kids see. And every time it's like, well, I apologize, or I don't mean it and I don't do it again. Sometimes the child can feel like, am I not enough? Right. And I like that your father came back, Jay, and said, if I can't do it for me, I can't do it, because that's what people don't understand. If love was the answer,
Hmm.
we would have a whole lot of people healed around here.
Yes.
But again, it's not. It doesn't have anything to do. If I'm not, if I'm, let me know if I'm not right, Jarvis. It doesn't have anything to do with I don't love you. It's just I don't know how to deal with what I'm dealing with, and that's the best way for me to cope.
Yes. It's the best way. It's the only way I do know how to cope, with the negative behaviors or the
Mm-hmm.
addiction or whatever. How can I avoid, numb, hide from, all that
Yeah.
type of stuff?
Yeah.
Because like she said earlier, the shame and guilt. The shame and guilt wouldn't allow me to have a conversation with you. The shame and guilt would make me run and try to
That's
cover
right.
it up with the same behavior
Mm-hmm.
or work, and I just get caught in a cycle over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, I was able to break this cycle to where I could start processing.
Yep.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, I could have the conversations, and by this time, my son was older, so my
Mm-hmm.
son was able to really um sit down and process it. I think in his own way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's fully um gotten over things, but I know we got a great relationship. I know that we
Good.
talk now. I know I'm available. He knows that I'm available.
You're
Um,
present.
I'm present.
Right.
Yeah, like completely
Because you was
present.
always there when you
Yeah,
was there. You
yeah,
just more present
yeah.
now.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
actively involved, actively engaged with him.
Yes.
So,
Good.
and he's a
That's what
he,
it's
he's
all
going into
about.
his senior year at LSU. You
Yep.
know, and he, hey,
Shout out to you and Stacy.
because
Yes.
my son could have he to me,
Could have followed in your
oh,
footsteps.
he could have been a terrorist, but he chose to like what he learned from me was what not to do.
Oh, he said, "Dad,
Oh.
break the cycle," and that's it. That's it
Yeah.
right there. It had to
Yes.
start
The
somewhere.
the biggest thing I feel
Mm-hmm.
you could have done for your son is just have that conversation, but show him, because that's a true I'm sorry when you show me change behavior. So the biggest thing you could have done was go back and say it, but to show it. So kudos to you, and kudos to him, even though he might be still processing, don't understand everything, but willing to receive and accept and start the relationship afresh, give you a fresh start. Because sometimes, people keep being bitter
Yeah.
and angry, right? So, and because of that, we can't have the harmony like Dominique said, because we're angry, we're bitter, and we don't understand how to process. So, again, kudos to you for showing up and being present in a healthy manner.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What you got, Jay? I feel like I've been doing all the talking. Y'all know I can keep running my mouth. I feel like we need another show.
Yeah, this was exciting.
Hey,
I
yeah.
feel like we still need another show on even the topics he was covering in the beginning, just to put the
Man,
resources out there.
yes.
Man, look, I said Jarvis got so much more. And Dominique, shout out to you. Don't think you're getting away with murder, because I got you next.
Right.
Wait,
Right.
Eric said, stay up, Jarvis. Much respect. Love you like a play cousin. Is that a
Yeah.
is that a light skin thing going
Yeah.
on
Hey.
here?
Yeah. That's what it is. That's what it is. We locked in, bro. We
Locked
locked
in.
in.
You
Yeah.
and your wife need to get on this marriage retreat we got coming up too. You hear me, Ellison?
Okay.
I know, right? Get the ticket. Get this ticket for
If
you and
not this
Yeah.
year,
Stacy.
maybe next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I
So
want to. I want to just say, like, I promise you, it's only because of the people that I connected with. All right. The good examples, the mentors. I had a bunch of mentors. I had sponsors. I had people at my job that were supervisors. African American men who was doing things differently. People that I knew from the streets that might have started out a different way, but ended up on a positive and healthy note, I just connected to them. I had a positive and nothing but support from my family. They loved me through all of the chaos,
Family is everything when they positive. Yes.
yes. So but at the time, like I just was so foggy up here, I wasn't able to realize that I had all of these things at the time going through it.
Yeah, but that's okay because God picked you up, turned you around, and placed your feet on solid
Right,
ground. And
right.
you're
Yep.
doing a thing. And not only are you doing a thing in your life, doing a thing in your family,
His
but
life.
you're also helping the community. So it
Yep.
don't just stop. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's about. You're giving back, right, to help people understand. And hopefully they don't have to go down that same path. But if they do, the organizations that you are a part of are there to help guide them through, not just
Right.
give them here you go and they don't know how to use it, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Thank you.
Shout out to the
He said,
journey and
shout
the
out to the
growth. That's
Jarvis
right.
and the growth. Yep. Big ups to that. Yep. Well,
Yes.
we are excited that you came on the show. We have much more that we want to talk about. I think this opportunity that you presented to us today should help a lot of fathers with their children as well to make better decisions, better choices. Hopefully, people who don't have therapy could possibly get therapy.
Yeah.
This is a window for more to come. So it
Mhm.
don't stop here. The buck does not stop here.
Right.
But yep,
Right.
we're excited to have you on the show, Jarvis, and
Thank you.
I
Thank
want
you.
you to
So,
continue with your resources and everything.
yep.
Appreciate
So,
it.
So we have a question. Knowing now what you know, what is the most important thing a man can do for their child to help them succeed?
Hmm. Man, it's a bunch of things I can say to that.
well,
Um,
say
but something that I'm learning with my middle child. I have my middle child. He's 11 years old. Okay. Um, he has his own identity. He has his own style.
mm-hmm.
And how I was taught, I used to always be taught like to hold yourself a certain way, put your hand down. These are the clothes I'm gonna buy you. These the ones that I pay. Like, so I don't want to break my son of his origin of him being authentic. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one case, right? Allow
Mm-hmm.
you. I have to allow my kids to be authentic in who they are.
That's
Um,
right.
also support them through everything, create a space, heal,
That's it.
um and be an example, just be an example. Make sure I know what the resources are out here in my community.
That's it.
I
Mhm.
come from a community where I didn't know what the resources were.
Mhm.
I didn't know about resources.
Right.
So through me getting clean, through me educating myself, going back to school, through my job, through
Mm-hmm.
training, like what I kind of did was made myself a resource so I
Mm-hmm.
can go into my community
He
and
said, "Made myself a resource." That's
yeah,
what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about.
yes,
It's
and
powerful.
I wanted to go back
A
into the
walking
community
billboard.
and let
Mm-hmm.
people know like the information that I didn't know. Like
Mhm.
let them know like, hey, it's some information that we didn't know about or that we unaware about. Other communities, other races may know about them, but we didn't know about them, and you
Mhm.
That's
need to
right.
connect to them. Like and sometimes that'll be something that'll help you make a decision from going left. Like, no, if I can connect to this, I wouldn't have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it.
Before we wrap up, right? Because I'm gonna give you a chance to tell us a little bit more about
Mm-hmm.
those programs again. But tell us now, how is the relationship with you and your dad?
Oh, me and my father, we are as close as thieves.
Thick
Um,
as thieves.
yeah,
He said,
Just
"Thick as
don't do no
thieves."
stealing.
look, we
You
so
can't say thick as thieves and you got good resources.
look look look. It's it is
Just
what it
don't do
is.
no stealing. That's what I
Yeah,
said. Just
that's
don't
it.
do
So
no stealing.
we real close. Um, we very close. We have conversations. Um, Sometimes I have to learn how to communicate better with him. He's a little older now. He's going through things in his life. I have to have understanding instead of trying to be understood. Like, so today I'm able to realize like um
Mm-hmm.
the healthiest way for me to communicate. I gotta figure out the healthiest way for me to communicate with my father.
Yeah.
I gotta make sure I don't judge him because I don't want him like running away from me or not communicating with me. Um, he's always present. He's always there for me and my kids. Um, it's a great relationship. you know.
That's good.
It's a
Good. And I'm
That
happy
is
you guys
that
are
is
able to
good.
lead by example for
Yes.
your kids. Like
Dominique,
you
I'm not
said,
fooling with you, Dominique.
I
I'm
missed
about to
what
kick you
Dominique
off
said. What Dominique
Dominique's
said? You talk
side.
about the light skin stuff again?
No, I'm talking about he could the thickest thieves.
Oh, he still can't shake it. He's still talking about it.
yeah,
But I was saying that I'm happy that, you guys are able to now finally lead by example, break generational curses, and move forth in a positive light. I love it. I think it's
Mhm.
amazing. And you
Mhm.
have a lot of support on here too.
yeah,
Yes. And
okay,
Amazing.
that came with some forgiveness, right? Forgiveness is a huge part of you and him mending. And I
yes,
like that now that we're mending, it's not all about me, but
Nope.
also how can I show up for him?
Hmm.
yes, yes,
And how you want
That's
your kids to show up for you.
yes, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
that's awesome. So tell us a little bit again about your programs.
All right. So basically, what we do, like at class, we meet people where they at. We connect with them. No matter if they unhoused, no matter if they got diagnosis for HIV, no matter if they have substance abuse issues, or if they have mental health issues. We connect with them, meet them where they at, and then we figure out which resources gonna help them get to what point they need to. A lot of times in the the treatment process, if you go into inpatient, they try to tell you this is what success looks like, right? In
Mm-hmm.
harm reduction, we don't do that. We ask people, what does success look like to you? And then once you
Mm.
define it, we want to get you there. And we just
Right.
go
Mm-hmm.
keep working off of those things, right? If I create that space where it's no judgment, no stigma, and it's nothing but love, when you ready to make a decision to change, who you go come back to? You go come right here to this safe space, and you go be ready to take those steps with myself or with my team, because we
That's
got a
right.
peer support specialist that works with us. We got the director of wellness that works with us. We got a whole agency. We also got people like Dominique Teasley and them who run the crisis team, the
Yep.
mobile crisis team, and they got navigators that's located in the ERs. In those ERs,
Mm.
they got people who, like, if you come into the ER and you got a substance abuse issue or
Hmm.
from an overdose, they go
Hmm.
connect with you right there on the spot, right? And see how can they get you into
Wow.
treatment, or they go
That's
follow you for a
powerful.
year. We
Hmm.
also can get you into inpatient treatment if you want to.
Hmm.
We got Project Rebuild, and that's really just helping people when they get out of treatment, get out of prison. We want to make sure we transition them in a good way, connect them to sober living, halfway houses or whatever.
Right.
We want to make sure they got hygiene, they got clothes. That way they can start showing up to these interviews or they can start going to work. We want to
Hmm.
make sure we connect them with Louisiana Rehabilitation Services
Hmm.
because it's a lot of grants out there or state funds that say if you got a diagnosis for mental health, substance abuse, they look at that as a disability. So
Right.
guess what? If you want to go to school, get your trade, and you
Hmm.
got that diagnosis from going to treatment, they go fund the whole plan for you going to school, getting a
Wow.
train, whatever the case may be. And
And
at
people
drug
don't know
court,
stuff like that.
yeah, and
Nope.
at drug court, I'm a substance abuse counselor. You got to come through the judicial system. But the thing about it, right? With being a counselor at drug court, instead of locking people up because of
That's
their
it.
addiction, we saying, hey, let's get them some treatment.
That's
Yep.
right.
Let's get them into treatment. Jail is not the not
Answer.
That's not
rehabilitation.
the
It's
answer
not
at all.
helping them.
Nope.
That's
Mm-mm.
not the answer. So
Hmm.
we got people over at Red River. We got resource coordinators like one of my partners, Jermaine. He just got the position. He ride around in a van. And guess what? If he sees somebody that's like, hey, I'm ready to go to treatment right now, he go put you in the van and bring you to treatment. So
Okay,
all I do,
Jermaine.
I
I just
love it.
that's it. We just
I love
making sure we building a community, we connecting with resources, and we helping our people out by
it.
any
Hmm.
means necessary.
Right.
Right.
Question. I have a question because again, with the statistics of fatherless people, fatherlessness in the
Hmm.
home, right? Do you guys have mentor programs for the young men? I know y'all probably deal with men and women, but because we're talking about men, do you guys have mentor programs for that?
So right now, um, myself, Dominique Teasley, a friend of ours named Sterling Brown, we are going into the schools. It's a school out here called Peabody Magnet High School. We go into the schools weekly to talk to the at-risk students, the ones who
Mm-hmm.
like straddle the fence between dropping out or staying in school.
Yeah.
So they allow us to come into the schools weekly. so we can talk to those type of students. That way we can see where they are, what type of mentorship they need. And even though we got a lot of stuff we doing work wise, we still know the people who out here mentoring. We know where the agencies at are, the programs for the students. We also know about we connected to coaches that want to make sure they come play football. Let's give them some
Yeah.
healthy activities. I'm working closely with the FINS program in Alexandria. It's on families in need of services. These are
Mhm.
kids that's through the judicial system. They can go to jail right now. At
Wow.
between at 11 years old, they can put them in jail. So they'll call,
Yes.
they'll make contact with me, and I'll get with the caretakers or the parents. I'll make
Wow.
sure it's okay for us to connect, and we'll just connect them to resources. I'm also working with strengthening families with Dr. Fox and David Christmas. It's a
Yeah.
mentor program to where it's the whole family setting, not just the kid, the
That's
parents,
right.
yeah,
That's
everybody there.
right.
And it's an 11-week program weekly, and they sit down, they have meals together, they have my time,
That's
we
amazing.
I
session.
think that's powerful because
Yes,
I can
Hmm.
get the kid, right? But he's still got to go back home to that environment.
Yep.
yes, yes. So they bringing the whole family system into the setting, and they working with them for 11 weeks, and then they can come back, or they usually like start connecting to other resources and
Right.
thing in our community. So it's a lot going on with the youth out
That's
here,
good.
and it's
Yeah.
very needed. So I try
Hmm.
to encourage anybody who have time or some type of compassion or empathy for those type of things, like
Right.
reach out. There's a bunch of things that could be done, and it don't have to be a lot of footwork. It can just be some time. It can be monetary, whatever the case may be. Everybody can play their part in different ways.
Yeah.
Right. And also
Amen.
tell them too,
Whew.
Jarvis, about give them a little bit more insight and information on being a peer. So like say for example, we have people out here who once was in addiction and they want to turn their lives around. This is kind of in the area where I was able to meet Dominique and Jarvis. Me and Jarvis actually met in a class for substance. It
Yeah.
was a certification that people who even once in their lives are still currently or recently are in recovery
Hmm.
want to reach out and go in this field of work. It's
Yeah.
so many resources out there, but one some don't know about. In our state, yes, but maybe in others, maybe not. Whoever may be watching,
Yeah.
give them more insight on a peer.
Peer support specialist. You can go if you got if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me,
Mhm.
anything over a year clean and
Two.
or 2 years clean. Okay, if you got over 2 years clean, you can go be a peer support specialist. You can take a class. It's a training. I'm not sure
Peer
how
support
long the
specialist.
training. It might be a week or two. And once you get that certification, you can go into the treatment facilities. You can be a peer support specialist.
Specialist.
You can hook up with people through the state,
Yep.
different agencies. A peer is needed in every at drug court. We have peer support specialists because they have the lived experience, and a lot of times they'll communicate with the peer support specialist before they communicate with the director or the case
Right.
manager or the
Right.
clinical team. We
Mhm.
have a peer support specialist at my agency. Her name Daniela Price. She very like close to the job. Anybody that come in my building, they want to make sure they talk to her because they the most comfortable with her.
Right.
And
So peer support specialist can be in any state, right?
It can
yes,
be in any state.
yes,
Okay.
Mhm.
So
they
any
may call them navigators or whatever
Yeah,
in
they
certain
may call them
states.
something different.
Yeah, but it's the peer
okay.
support specialist. So you just
Okay.
look into it.
Mhm.
If you interested, it got a lot of opportunities in that
Yep.
area, and also just in the field. Period with substance abuse.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, whoo, we
Networking.
got we listen, it should have been a two-part show, but listen,
Mhm.
I appreciate you so much for joining the show. And
Thank
as
you.
we come to a close, right? Jay, do you have anything? Jarvis, I'm gonna come to you with a nugget. Jay, you got any last minute comments?
Well, first I want to say thank you, Jarvis, for coming on the show. We really appreciate you. I think, the Lord placed people in your lives for a reason, sometimes a season, but I feel like I've earned a great friend in this process. And thank you for sharing your story.
Thank
And
you.
you'll be back on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
We gotta have you back. It's so much that you're doing. We didn't even touch any of it. So thank you. So what would be your nugget to young men, fathers? What would that be?
Um, what would I tell? Um,
Mhm.
use your resources. Find out who your tribe is, who your people are. It's a lot of assistance out there. It's a lot of people who have the lived experience. It's a lot of things. Also, give yourself a break. Don't be too hard on yourself. I always tell people like a lot of the judgment come from self judgment. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Everything is a process. You're not gonna get it right. You're not gonna be perfect at it. Just find somebody who have your best interests at heart, and somebody who's connected, who can help guide you through a situation. Um, and just love yourself, give
Mhm.
yourself an opportunity to because a lot of people, they don't feel like they worthy or they capable, of
Mhm.
certain things, but I believe everybody has it in them,
There you
yeah.
go.
Well, thank
And
you
I
so
think
much
some
for.
people think it's too late. Like some parents feel like the damage is done, but what they fail to realize is they're causing more damage to the situation when it's a helpful situation. If
Yes.
your parents or your dad is still alive and he making a connection, allow him to connect depending on the circumstances. It's never too
Long as
late.
it's still healthy, long
As
as
long
it's
as it's
not going to
healthy.
cause you an emotional or mental break, right? At the
Yep.
same time, we still got to protect our peace, right? So
Boundaries.
yeah, if it's healthy,
Hmm. Boundaries
if
though.
Yes.
boundary, say that one more time.
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
Boundaries. So yes, listen guys, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button cuz we be talking about some real stuff on Real Talk, and we feel, deal and heal. So with that being said, Jarvis J, I'll be right with you guys in just a second, okay? So listen guys, next week we are going to have our male therapist come on the show. This way he can help us in how to feel, deal and heal. And following that, we're going to have a female therapist on the show. This way, she can help the females deal with the absent or inconsistent father. So tune in and for Real Talk with Ellison and share this out because as Jarvis was sitting here dropping some nuggets, telling his story, he's doing a great thing in society. He's doing a great thing in his community. Share this out because I know that there are going to be people that's going to need this, right? So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you for watching Real Talk with Ellison. And God bless you all. Mwah. Have a good night.